A few weeks ago, I did a video where I compared Stephen King's book Misery to the film adaptation, and it was a hit. So I am definitely doing this again, but first, let's select the next contender. I've chosen 5 books that I read the first chapter of in order to decide which one I would like to watch the movie or TV version of the book. This is a little bit different because my goal for this is literally just to find a book that I want to read so that I can compare it to a movie. So I purposefully picked different genres. So I think that will affect the ranking a little bit. So what I did was I created this rating system 1 through 5 so I could rate each first chapter that I read and go from there. If I give a chapter 1 star, that means that I don't want to read it. I don't care about the book at all. I have no desire to read it or watch the show. The end. 2 stars is I'm completely indifferent about it. I don't want to keep reading. I don't have any forceful desires to not keep reading. It is what it is. I have no feelings. 3 stars is laying the groundwork. So what I mean by this is I can tell that the author is just laying the groundwork in these beginning chapters, which is totally normal, but it's not leaving me wanting more. 4 stars is I could not put this down and I'm so excited to continue reading this. And 5 stars is drop everything. I want to do nothing else until I finish this book. So I started off reading Slow Horses by Mick Herron. This is technically, I think, considered a mystery thriller book. It is a series, which is now a seasonal show on Apple TV. 1 season is 1 book in the series. So the first season of, I believe the show is called Slow House, is the first book, Slow Horses. For each of these books, I tried not to read the synopsis too much because I really just wanted to base it off of what happened in the first chapter. So in the first chapter of Mick Herron's Slow Horses, we are following our main character, River. And River basically says this moment that he's taking us through right now is when he becomes a slow horse. I do have a little bit of background on this series because it was recommended to me. So basically a slow horse is an MI5 agent that messed up royally and is not basically able to continue in all those cool cases. So we're following River as he's chasing this target through the London Underground, and turns out he was chasing the wrong target. And so this first chapter ends with River basically realizing he has chased the wrong target through the London Underground, meaning the right target got away and everyone in this train station is in danger. And he's then approaching the real target, and then basically the real target goes to pull a sleeve, which we assume is going to be some sort of detonation, and then it stops. I think that was a great first chapter. It was very high pace. I felt like I was running through the London Underground with River, and then just ending it in that way where we're pretty sure he's too late, but we don't know for certain. I definitely want to keep reading more, and I think I can see how this would make a really good TV adaptation. I'm giving this first chapter 4 stars. Then I picked up Argylle by Ellie Conway. This is also a mystery type book. This is currently a movie, and I believe it has that real like whodunit vibe is what it's supposed to come out as. So I didn't actually realize this was the book. I saw the movie trailer first and thought that it would be a movie that I would want to watch. In this book, I read the prologue and the first chapter because they were a little short. In the prologue, we are following a Russian politician and his wife basically on this train ride to do some sort of campaigning. The politician is married to the president's daughter, who he is currently running against. And you kind of get the vibe that they hate each other, and this is just kind of a marriage of convenience to raise both of their standings. And then in the first chapter, we go to Argylle, who I think is a detective. I'm not exactly sure. I honestly don't remember what he was doing, where he was. In my mind, I was picturing it like an archaeological dig. That's not what it was, but that's what I was picturing in my mind. And obviously, I'm assuming he's going to play some part in the politician's campaigning. Oh, I forgot to mention the politician's campaign. The last thing he says is there was this stolen artifact and he promises the Russian people that he will bring that back. So I didn't read the back of this. I'm guessing that Argylle's place in this has something to do with this artifact that this politician just promises people he is going to somehow find. For me, these first couple chapters were definitely a 3. I can tell the author is laying groundwork. And again, I'm not expecting every chapter to just blow me out of the water. I think there is a time and a place for chapters to be really suspenseful and for chapters to lay some groundwork. But when I'm thinking about ranking them against each other, I want to continue Slow Horses more than I want to continue Argylle. So for right now, Slow Horses at the top, Argylle will just go down below it. And then I picked up Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a science fiction book, which is also a science fiction show. In this first chapter, this was the longest first chapter out of all of the ones I read. We are following Jason, who leaves his kind of family night celebration to go congratulate a colleague on a big grant. And on the way home, he gets kidnapped. And essentially the first chapter ends with Jason's kidnapper, saying like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you why you were actually here. The creepy part about it is it's very clear that Jason's kidnapper kidnapped him for a purpose. Like, it's not, at first he thinks it's like a random mugging, or he's just, you know, just happened to be on that side of the road, but then he realizes that he was being followed and it's him. Like, they were looking for him specifically. I definitely have some theories as to why they were looking for him and what is going on. I don't know anything about the show, and I did not read the synopsis of this one because I feel like the synopsis of this one is going to give away why he was kidnapped, and I want to figure that out by myself. So I did not read that. So all I have this one is the first chapter, and this one is definitely a 4 for first chapter. I thought it was great. I want to continue reading it. It had that creepy, suspenseful vibe. I was sweating for him, freaking out for him, and I want to know what the hell is going on as well. So this, I think, is going to be fantastic. If I had to pick between Slow Horses and Dark Matter right now, I think I would go with Dark Matter because it just has this complete unknown to it. I have no idea what the hell is going on, and I want to know what is going on. Then I picked up High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. This is a contemporary fiction, I believe, type of book that is made into a show on Hulu. In the prologue and first chapter of this one, we are following the narrator who is essentially writing a letter to an ex-girlfriend, Laura, and he says to Laura, you know, like, you broke my heart, but here are the top 5 heartbreaks, and sucks to be you, but you're not one of them. And then he kind of goes through that first heartbreak very quickly, just when he was a teenager, explaining how that happened. I didn't know anything about this book, and I didn't feel like I could really get a grasp on what was happening with those first 2 chapters. So I did read the synopsis of this one, and apparently what's happening is Laura and Rob is the main character who we were following. They broke up. She like left him for a guy upstairs of his record shop. He basically starts off saying he doesn't care, but then I think maybe he goes after her or something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly, one of the main reasons I picked this one up was because Zoe Kravitz stars in the show. As far as book goes right now, I would give this first chapter a 3. I can tell the author is laying groundwork. It feels to me like the type of book that maybe you just have to read like the first 30 pages-ish to really get into it, which is fine. I don't think that makes it a bad book, but just going based on the first chapter, I'm gonna give it a 3. It's not gonna be one that I read and watch right away. And finally, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have never read anything by Taylor Jenkins Reid before. I've seen her all over the place. I feel like every time she comes out with a new book, BookTube just explodes. I've never read anything before by her. I never really had the desire to read anything by her. Contemporary fiction is not really my thing. It's not something I go to often. This was kind of an out of the box for me, I guess you could say. The narrator in this one is basically a reporter saying that she did all this research on this band, Daisy Jones and the Six, that I think they just like randomly broke up. And so the whole book is pieces of interviews with different people. First and foremost, I won't lie to you, I had to Google if Daisy Jones and the Six was a real band because it sounds like a real band. And I thought that maybe I just missed this famous band and I just never heard of them. It's not, but based on the first chapter, it feels like it's a real band. I felt like I was reading these real interviews with these real people about this real band. It just seems so realistic. I loved it. I read this one first out of all of these, and it took all of my energy, all of it, to not go back to it. I almost just said, screw it, scrap the video because I'm gonna read this. It was so good. I love when books don't follow normal book patterns, like just different pieces where it's just not like a straight prose the entire time. I love that. And I think this whole book is just interviews. So I'm obsessed. I cannot wait to read this. I already read past the first chapter because I couldn't contain myself. This is definitely the one that I will be reading next, and I will be binging the show, and I will be reporting back to you to see which is better, the book or the TV show. I think this TV show has a lot of potential too. I just can't wait. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books or watched any of these film adaptations. I am dying to know your thoughts on them. No spoilers though, please. And in the meantime, if you haven't checked out my first chapter ranks, my thriller reads yet, or by comparison of Stephen King's Misery book to the film, go ahead and check those out. I will link them here, wherever it happens. And if you're just as excited as I am to read Daisy Jones and the Six and watch the show and do a comparison, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss a single thing. And I will see you next time.